patreon.com/worst take. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. All right, so I always like to bring in guests. This is a new guest I haven't brought on to the channel, but it's one that you guys are all familiar with, Mr. Tyvis Powell. Needs no introduction. He's on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. He also does multiple different podcasts. You might know him from his playing career at Ohio State. Played for the Seahawks and the Browns?
I played for a quarter of the league. Seahawks, Browns, Colts, 49ers, Jets, Cowboys, Texans, pretty much Denver, everywhere, quarter of the league.
Toward the league, toward the country.
Hey, I got to see a lot of different cities, and I got to meet a lot of great players. So it wasn't bad.
It prepared you for a great career in media. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know every playbook.
Right.
You got every connection that you could ask for. But speaking of media, let's talk about this Browns defense. It's been interesting, right? Because last year they weren't an untalented group. They were a very talented group that kind of underperformed in some specific areas. Early on, it was the communication between the secondary and then whatever was going on with the interior of the defensive line. They had a lot of things to fix up. They switched defensive coordinators.
Yep.
As somebody who's been in that, what does that defensive coordinator change really do for the players? Is it more like about the actual nuts and bolts schematics of the changes that are going to be happening? Or is it kind of like a mental thing where it's like, hey, if we weren't working with this dude, nobody really wanted to listen to him. Bringing in somebody else new kind of just helps just by it being somebody new.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you bringing in a guy who got, Super Bowl experience. Obviously, his resume around the league is he always has a top 5 defense, and for the Browns, it's just about hitting the reset button. Joe Woods was up and down. He started off seasons really bad, but he always seemed to finish them. But he could never put the whole 16 or 17 games together. No, so it's about bringing in a new voice in that locker room, somebody that's going to hold them accountable. I don't think under Joe Woods under Jim Schwartz we'll hear guys not wanting to play first and second down, only on third down. I don't think Jim Schwartz will allow that to happen. So I think it's bringing accountability in there. Obviously, they're bringing in a lot of fresh blood, a lot of new players and new faces, but I think Jim Schwartz is going to lay the foundation down, and then it's up to these guys to hold that standard. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. He's not here just to have, a good defense. He wants to have the number 1 defense. And that's something that, I don't know what obviously we know what the Browns defense wanted to be last year. Obviously, with the Deshaun Watson suspension, they even came out and said that they was going to be the strength of the team, man. They just underperformed. Now, you can blame that on some injuries that's taken place, especially at the linebacker position. You can blame it on the Myles Garrett injury. But at the end of the day, it was a disconnect there where the players weren't responding to what Joe Woods was putting out there.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to see these kind of things break down during the season because they're so hard to diagnose when you're not in it, right?
Yeah,
because it could be anything, right? And this is where we get all the explanations in the world. Oh, they're quitting on the guy, or this or that, or somebody's just not paying attention, or it's this or that, and you get a million different explanations, and sometimes the answer is kind of simple, where it's people just frustrated. I was thinking about it too. It's gotta suck to be on a defense that stinks, because you on offense and you stink, you go 3 and out, right? You know what I mean? It ain't nothing to be on the offense that stink. You're not playing that much.
That's true.
But you on a defense that stink, dog. You just out there 12, every play.
12, 13 play drives. You know what I mean? Gas.
The Browns gave up a quarter-long drive versus the Commanders.
Yeah, you gas, and you just sitting there please, somebody step up and make a play. This is bad.
Imagine what it's like for Myles Garrett to run out, get 5 minutes on the tank or whatever he's going to do to recover, and then go back out there. And it's not just the same drive; it's the same drive, but they've moved the ball 15 yards because you still got the drive ain't even close to over yet. It's got to be mentally fatiguing to be on a defense that can't stop an offense, and then especially you can't stop the run.
Listen, that Falcons game last year, when they ran the same play over and over and over, like if I was on defense, like it would have been the point where I would have been like, forget what Joe Woods called. We blitzing everybody because we gotta stop this. And it's like, and it's not the fact that they called the same play, it's the fact that they called the same play and kept getting positive yards. It was like nobody can stop. Like that is extremely frustrating on the defense. Like I said, if I was out there, I probably would have cussed somebody out, and I probably would have got cut because I would have cussed everybody out. Like, dude, we not about to sit here and just keep getting blown off the ball and letting these dudes just run the same play. Which I think this is a video game.
Yeah, and that's interesting, right? Because like I feel like that's something that kind of went down with this defense, where it was the accumulated frustration of teams doing not overly complicated stuff to beat you, and guys just deciding, man, I'm doing something about it. And you know, when it's Ray Lewis and Ed Reed deciding, I'm going to do something about it, that's fine, right? Because they know everybody else going to be where they're going to be, and we're going to make this play because we know where to be here. But when everybody decides to kind of do something about it, that's where things just become a mess, because it's like, okay, you're over here, I'm expecting you to be over here, and then that's I think where a lot of the issues came in, was that frustration of, I'm trying to fix the problem, but everybody's trying to fix the problem, and nobody's really communicating how they're going to fix that problem.
And that's the thing, you know, when you in this game, you know, it's only a certain respect factor you got to have to be able to, you know, go off script. You know, every play is designed for everybody to have a certain gap, and if it was ran correctly, the defense should never give up a play. But obviously, somebody was on the D line was either getting reached, they was getting pushed, blown back off the ball. Something was happening to where it messed up everybody. So if Myles Garrett was to say, you know what, I'm going to try to make a play on this, then he would try to do it, but then maybe where he was supposed to be is where they go and he vacates his spot. So it's very hard to just go off script and be successful. You got to like know something. Like you got to know what play is coming to be able to do that. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't get on defense. It really comes within your preparation. Like you got to study so much film and so much tape and understand what an offense is trying to do. You got to know basically what the offensive coordinators likes to do in certain situations. And if you can figure that out over the course of a game, then you'll be able to put yourself in position to make plays. And I don't know how much of that was going into, you know, what the Browns defense was doing last year either. I mean, if you think about it, like I say, J3 came out and, you know, he was saying, you know, guys lead this building and they don't continue to work and continue to try to be better. You know, so that's the thing. If you want to be great, like if you want to be good in football, that's cool. You know, come in. We come in at 7:00. We do our meetings. We go to practice. We done by 4:00. Fine. If you want to be good, that's cool. But if you want to be great and you want to go to the next level, and that's the thing that this defense got to understand. And I think they're going to do that now that they got Jim Schwartz in there and they got some guys that, you know, went to the Super Bowl and they got a veteran presence in there. Like, we don't want to be just good. We want to be great. Like, we want to be the number one defense. Like when I was in Seattle, that's what they said. We want to be the number one defense. And whoever's out on that field, I don't care if you first round or undrafted, you're held to a standard. And that's where this Brown defense has to get to if they want to be successful. Because, I mean, let's be frank here. They did everything they could to make this defense better with all the players that they acquired, getting a new coach in there. But everybody is still coming to these games to see that offense go. And, you know, if they want to take some of their shine away, which if they want, they should be competing with their own offense this season. Like, listen, y'all good. Y'all going to get people in the stands, but like we is the reason why we're winning games. And I think that's the attitude that they got to take if they want to be great this season.
They gotta want to make camp really like tough on each other, you know what I mean? Like, you know, have it be iron sharpens iron. And well, we talked a lot about what the changes are going to be on this defensive line with Jim Schwartz, because that's what we're kind of focused on, because that's what the big egregious issue was with this team. But I don't think a lot of focus has been put on his secondary and what changes with Jim Schwartz versus what Joe Woods used to do. Do you have any idea like what just some of the basic changes that we should expect from it, switching from Jim Schwartz to Joe Woods?
Well, when I look at it, you know, I looked at a few games, you know, when he was with Philly and what they were doing. He didn't have, you know, so with Joe Woods, it's corner, and a nickel. I don't think that's necessarily how he plays his secondary. I think what he does is he has three cover guys. So it don't matter who is in the nickel spot. Like Denzel got to be able to play nickel. MJ got to be able to play nickel. I think what he does is he assigns certain guys to certain players, and wherever they go, that's who you got. So if your guy end up in the slot, you better know how to play nickel. But if he does that, he usually likes to run a lot of one, a lot of three, which typically Joe Woods ran the same thing. That's pretty much what a lot of NFL teams like to do, run a lot of cover three and a lot of cover one with the one high safety, sprinkle in some cover two in there every now and again to get these corners some relief. So it'll be the same thing. But as far as a coverage standpoint, he wants his guys pressed up and he wants these guys challenging because he believes in the pass rush. And if he wants the coverage to be tight behind them, so the quarterback either has to think twice, double clutch the ball, but it buys that pass rush that one extra second to get home and make plays. And that's how he's so successful, because he's going to let them go. He's going to let the D-line do what they do.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. It's kind of like it's weird. We've had Myles Garrett on this team since 2017. And I think this is probably the first defensive coordinator that's really like trying to unleash him, because like even with Greg, you had the weird like he can only use one or two pass rush move rules that Myles talked about that him having for whatever reason. And then you went to the Joe Woods system, which is more or less, hey, we want to figure this out from the back end more so than figure this out with the pass rush. So it's gonna be interesting to see what Myles' numbers look like. Obviously, he has the help with Zadarius Smith there. We talked about this team being talented, right? They have already, solid guys in Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Martin Emerson. And then you go out, you get Juan Thornhill as a safety. You also bring in Ronnie McLeod, who's kind of flown under the radar, but he's a pretty good player as well. You also have Grant Delpit, who played decently in a role last year. And then you draft Cam Mitchell. How do you fit all these bodies into the rotation at DB?
Well, the one thing you want to do is you want to bring competition in, because you want guys to be the best. You don't want people to just think that they're entitled to the job. You don't want them to be relaxed and think, oh, I played last year, so I'm already the starting guy. No, you bring in competition to make these guys work. And obviously, we heard the G New chatter about the nickel position last year or this offseason. So you bring in a guy like Cam Mitchell, who is quote unquote his little brother, but has a lot of experience playing nickel. He made a lot of plays in college at Northwestern playing nickel. So now, even if G New went down, you got a guy in there who can play the nickel position, whether that's what they want to call it anyways, that can be effective in those games. But, you bringing in Rodney McLeod, obviously he knows Jim Schwartz's system. He's been with them. He's won a Super Bowl with Jim Schwartz. So, he's older. I think he's like 32 years old, but he's going to set the culture. He's a locker room guy. He's a leader, and he got a guy like Grant Delpit, I think he'll be in charge of Grant Delpit. Listen, I know where you at. Your play style is a little bit similar to mine. People want to say you're a box safety, but you are good enough to, check tight ends, maybe even check a wide receiver from here on out. So I think that's why he was brought here. And Juan Thornhill is a true post safety. I think with the J3 thing, he was more of a box safety. You needed to have him around the ball, because if you look at him from the Rams days, he made all his plays from being in the box, where the Browns was asking him to play in the post. And you get nosy back there because it's boring. It's like playing in the outfield of baseball. It get boring if ain't no action coming. So you start stepping up and try to make some plays that you ain't got nothing to do with it. Boom, you get beat. I think having Juan Thornhill back here, a true post safety that, can erase, some of those deep passes down the middle, has made plays in the post. I think that's going to make a true difference, because it's going to allow these corners to know that, hey, even if I get beat, I got a safety back there that has my back.
Yeah. And with Juan being there, you have that true post safety. You also have guys like JOK at linebacker. Do you feel like linebacker is fine with this team, or do you think that they need to add some more bodies in there?
It's a little concerning to me. The only reason it's concerning is because they're all coming off of injuries last season. Every last one, Taki, Walker, and JOK all got hurt last season and missed the remainder of the season. So That's the only thing that's concerning to me. I don't think that they're necessarily as bad as people made them seem last year. I think the reason that they look bad is because our defensive tackles weren't good enough and they were getting blown off the ball. So now you got these guards pushing up to the linebackers, or you got linebackers with the D tackle in their lap and you expect them to make plays. And on top of that, they're all undersized linebackers anyway. So getting off blocks really isn't their strong suit anyway. So I think now that you shored up that defensive tackle position, they'll eat up blocks. You got a guy like Ika in there who's 335 pounds that's going to require a double team. So they'll never get to these linebackers. They'll allow these guys to free flow and make plays on the ball. However, my only thing with JOK is I don't think he's a box linebacker. I think he's more of a Sam linebacker. The reason I say that is because he's athletic. He's quick. He's like in college, he was kind of like a nickel / safety / linebacker. So he has the potential to move better than any linebacker that we have. I think you have to utilize him by sending him off the blitzes to the field or being able to be that buzz dropper that can get under those corner routes or those curls like that. That to me seems like where he can make his biggest mark. In the box, I don't think his footwork is good enough in the box yet. And I don't think he does well getting off blocks because he's undersized anyway. So I think he needs to be the one that gets put more to the field side. And I would roll, well, obviously Anthony Walker would play Mike. And if Taki makes it back in the season, I will put him at the will position. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's be interesting to see how all that shakes out, the linebacker position. I forgot that all three of them dudes are coming off season-ending injury.
Yeah,
too. That's another one. It's
very, very concerning to me.
Yeah,
I brought it up. I brought it up to Stefanski on draft day. He said he was good. They was good where they was at. So we'll see.
And he was like, I saw Reggie Ragland out there do all right, and we're gonna be okay there.
Listen, Reggie Ragland, at least he made some of them tackles that we needed down the stretch. I would keep him. I keep a spot for him on the roster.
I was wondering. I was like, he was out there playing in like the old school jersey. It looked like, because you know how the jerseys usually be like super tight. I'm like, nah, he got loose sleeves. Like, you know what I mean? Had the regular T-shirt underneath. I'm like, he never graduated Bama. Like, that's the same stuff they give you over there.
Like, he probably still had his Bama T-shirt on.
It probably was. It was great, right? Like, it's his lucky shirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I know I fit these gaps when I got this shirt on.
Listen, ain't nobody gonna say, hey, listen, his field swag might not be great, but if you making plays, then we'll look past that. We ain't even worried about that.
They be talking dirty about Nick Chubb's face mask. Every time you get one of them mic'd ups, it's somebody in there talking about how they hate Nick Chubb's face mask. It's like, Nick Chubb's like, it keeps me off the concussion list.
Hey, at the end of the day, playing that position, you gonna take a lot of hits, so you need to make sure you can protect your mind. When you're done, you be able to still function. Can't tell you how many players get out the league and they had them concussions and they ain't right.
Absolutely. Let's flip it to the offensive side of the ball real quick here. Browns did a decent amount of free agency to kind of, I don't want to say like they didn't bring any big name in, right? Last year they brought in Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson. They didn't do that this year. They already had that. But they bring in some, I think, like some connective tissue pieces, right? If you think of this wide receiver group as like a baseball lineup, they got some home run hitters, some guys who can, get a big play every once in a while. What of all of the things that they tried to add or all the elements that they're going to try to add, do you think can be the most impactful change that they can make to this offense from last year?
You know what I would like to see them do? I would like to see them run formations out of the pistol. And the reason I say the pistol versus the spread is because the pistol, Nick Chubb's still north and south. If you go out, if he's in the spread or in the gun, obviously he's lateral. He's moving, like he's getting the ball from a lateral position, and then he's got to make his move. I think if he's more downhill type of a guy, more of a zone type of guy, that's the case. Get him in the pistol, and you could operate so many ways out of that. Deshaun Watson's more comfortable. If he is more comfortable in the gun, then put him in the pistol. You can still run play action out of those, still hit your tight ends on the over routes. You can still do a lot of effective things, but I think it allows Deshaun to be comfortable, and it'll allow Nick Chubb to be comfortable without completely blowing up the whole playbook. I think that's a change that I would like to see being made. And I also like to see some of those RPOs get installed in there. I think last year Philadelphia did a great job of showing you how well, that, because it put defenses in a bind. If you got the pieces that the Browns have, it's a lot. It can cause a lot of problems for a defense. If you're a linebacker, you have to respect Nick Chubb and step up if you see play action. You can pull the ball out. Deshaun Watson has the ability to run. So that's another element. Somebody has to be, responsible for him running. So now that's another guy. That's one less guy in coverage. Then you got Elijah Moore or Marquise Goodwin or whoever behind that linebacker that's stepping up that can catch a slant and make something happen when they get the ball in their hands. So I think RPOs and operating out of the pistol would be two nice changes and make it very effective for this offense.
Interesting question I have for you. When we're talking about the Browns having issues like just finishing drives in the end zone, in the red zone area, for you as a defender, what makes your life most difficult in the red zone when a team has, obviously if they have an elite quarterback, that's going to make your life very difficult, right?
Absolutely.
Mahomes makes everybody. But
absolutely,
outside of like the obvious, what kind of stuff, like if a team has this type of receiver or if a team has this type of tight end or this type of threat at running back, what like causes, in your opinion, the most conflict for defenders in that area?
Well, it's a couple of things. Obviously, if your quarterback has the ability to run, that's huge. That's number one right there, because it's like, even if everything breaks down, we could be in the perfect coverage, but if we have to account for the quarterback running, it takes away from a defender being in zone, or it's an area that's going to be open because we have to have somebody that's responsible for the quarterback. So quarterback run is always one thing that's a problem. If you got a running back that's effective, that's getting downhill, that's a problem, because the secondary is usually in some type of zone anyways. Now it will allow us to have eyes on the quarterback or allow us to have eyes on the plays, but we are pass first. The pass is always the number one thing that can be effective down there. So the run game will be open more so than not. Then if you got one of those dangerous wide receivers in the slot, that's a problem, because he eats up the eyes of not just the linebacker, but safeties as well. So now he got 4 eyes on him. You're vacating the outside for one-on-one. You got a Cedric Tillman, you got a DPJ, guys that can go up and get the ball. They're in one-on-one coverage. Or you got a Njoku, who's a high point guy. They go up in coverage and they're one-on-one. More times than not, they'll win that, because everybody has to account for these shifty wide receivers in the slot.
Yeah. It's always funny because like whenever you do like conventional wisdom with football versus like what kind of has to work there, because people would think, the simple ideal is, hey, you close, just run it. But sometimes that becomes difficult because it's real easy to put the biggest bodies on the defensive line and just be able to stop the run, because but you're going to go left or right, there's not that much space to go. It becomes real hard to run down there. It also becomes hard to throw down there too if the field
it's one of those things that if the Browns were to, I entertain the idea of running a spread, maybe I'd just try it. Come out in 10 personnel. When I say 10 personnel, I mean 1 running back, no tight ends, 4 wide receivers. Okay, you get that. Now the defense has no choice but to match it. Now we coming out in dime because we need DBs out there to come. We don't want to put no linebacker on no wide receiver. And on top of that, you got Elijah Moore and you got Marquise Goodwin in the slot. We definitely going dime. We can't even put no linebackers out there. So what does that do for Nick Chubb? Okay, now I only got 1 linebacker that I got to beat. If I'm operating out of the pistol, like first of all, the linebacker don't know which side I'm going to go to. So there is no pre-snap tells of where I'm going. And on top of that, you got some DBs out there that probably don't want to tackle Nick Chubb to begin with. And they're so removed from the box that you only got a couple of people to beat. It makes the numbers in the box easier for Nick Chubb to be able to run the ball. So the spread is something, or this pistol is something down in the red zone that would be very intriguing.
It would definitely be intriguing, especially if Deshaun Watson is firing on all cylinders like he did in Houston. then you can see, this, this team, we could talk about everything else on this team. This team's ceiling rises and lowers with the play of Deshaun Watson,
absolutely,
especially in this division where you play Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and you talk about dudes who make it tough on defenses. Like, I don't think outside of Pat Mahomes, like, those are the two dudes like that kind of make it really difficult, because it's like Joe Burrow just figures it out for whatever reason. Yep. And then Lamar Jackson does the kind of stuff you can't plan for.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you get out there and you be like, listen, I knew he was fast and I knew he could move, but it's different when you see it in real time.
Did that ever happen to you while you were in the league, where like you got there and then somebody you found out it was way different?
Let me tell you, I was one of the first people that got introduced to Tyreek Hill. Okay, this is what happened. It's funny now, but it was not funny at the time. So we out there, my first preseason game, my first NFL experience is against the Kansas City Chiefs. He had just been drafted by the Chiefs, and my special teams coordinator is talking about, like, he was like, Tyvis, they say that this guy is the fastest guy that they've ever seen, and blah, blah, blah. He's a track star and all that. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, I've heard this a million times. Like, you hear about all these track guys that come play football, but like when they get out there, there's a difference between fast and football fast, right? So my coach, like, yeah, you got this dude on. It was on punt. He was the up back on punt, and he was like, you got to check him down the field. He said, "But I'm gonna tell you this right now." He said, "Play off, because I'm telling you he's fast." So me, I'm thinking I ran a 4.4. I'm like, hey, he ain't gonna be that fast. Listen, that man flew past me so fast, I could not believe how fast that dude was. So my special teams coordinator is looking at me as I'm coming off the field. He goes, "I told you he was fast." So that was the first thing. So that was one of the ones. Like, I seen it on tape, but I'm like, it don't look that fast. But you get out there and I'm like, man, that dude is flying.
You had to Google, like, what was his 40? You know what I mean? Like, I know.
They say he ran a 4.2. No, he ran a 4 flat.
Like, that can't be just 0.2 seconds faster, right?
Yeah.
No, that's a different.
Like that.
No, he once broke off a play, slowed down, do somebody, and then ran off. Like, that's a different, like, the acceleration and his ability to get the top speed is just something insane.
Listen, between him and Marquise Goodwin, I got the chance to go up against both of them. Them two dudes right there be moving. Oh my goodness.
He used to be sitting there just like, all right.
It ain't nothing you can do. It's like, listen, y'all know these dudes is bad. If you don't get no hands on them, it's over with. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Just be out there real nervous, just like show your safety back there.
Look, make that eye contact with your safety. You see who I got now.
We good?
You see who over here, right?
You throwing them up like you the wide receiver checking on the line. Like, we good, man. Come on. You don't want to lose and be like, I don't know what happened. He just fast. He just ran past me.
Listen, they're going to be like, listen, you know what you need to do? You need to either play off or you need to bail. But you don't want to play scared. You don't want to play scared either, because you're going to miss out on a lot of plays. But at the end of the day, you got to protect deep short.